Hello, welcome to the round 6 review of the World Chess Championships, in which we actually finally see a decisive game. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I might actually upload a recap of this game. For once. I'll be right back. Give me a second. Okay. Oh! The game ended! Shoot! I didn't even notice. Oh no! I wasn't here for the end of the game! Oh my god, that's all I wanted to do today! No! Alright, well that does mean that we're going to have to look at the entirety of this 136 move game. We're gonna go through every single move. We're gonna go play-by-play analysis. No, I'm joking. We're gonna like skim through this game and do a quick recap, because first of all, for myself, I actually haven't seen the start of this game, and it's just like this is the first actual win in the World Championships in like 5 years or something like that, which is first decisive result in a classical game in a while. So exactly, Falcon. They were watching my stream and decided to end it when I left. Yep. So apparently apparently this game lasted 7 hours. I obviously only came here for like the last 7 minutes of it and still managed to miss the end of the game. So that always happens. That's always nice. But it was a decisive result and it was pretty insane. So d4, knight f6, knight f3, d5, g3, e6, bishop to g2. I literally had one job. My one job was to sit here with my butt on my chair and look at this game, and instead I left in like the middle because I had to go do something. So oh well. Bishop to e7, castle, b3, c5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5. This is a Catalan again? I would assume this is like some sort of Catalan again, but it looks like a very, it's not quite a Catalan though. But you didn't play c4, so you played b3. But what is that called? Is there a name for this? Oh, it's called the pseudo Catalan. Wow, that's a great name. Thank you. That's very helpful. Okay, so we're playing the pseudo Catalan, which is basically just, I guess, almost a Catalan, but not quite the Catalan. I guess that works. c5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, c4. It's kind of a Catalan equals pseudo Catalan. I agree. I don't know if they're making it up or if this is the actual name at this point. I just can't tell. Rename it the Carlsen. I agree. This should actually be renamed into the Carlsen. So d takes c4, queen to c2, queen to e7, knight to d2, knight to c6, knight takes c4, b5, knight c to e5, knight b4, queen b2, bishop b7, a3, knight c6. Okay, so we're just like, I mean, Magnus is trying to not swap with that knight, which is totally fair. I think he has a pretty good control of the center with his two knights over here. Bishop b6, bishop to g5, rook fd8, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, rook a to c1, just taking control of some open files. Knight to d4, some swaps come onto the board. Queen a2, bishop takes g2, king takes, queen b7, king g1. Endgame god indeed. All right, so now we're just going to an endgame, I assume, because everybody loves to play those and everybody loves to watch those as well. I mean, actually, after today, I assume most people actually enjoy watching those endgames because, well, this one endgame was actually kind of entertaining because it was like, I mean, apart from the fact that it took 7 hours, Magnus really showcased his ability to win. Like, it really just showcased his ability to win games Quite literally, showcase his ability to win games, I think is exactly how it's supposed to be. And he was like in a pretty much drawn position and then was like, you know what? I'm just gonna win this casually. So that works perfectly well. So king to g7, rook to d2, rook a to c8, queen takes c8, rook takes c8, rook takes c8. And this is the part where Nepo decides that he is willing to give up 2 rooks for a queen. In terms of evaluation itself, it's actually roughly about equal, but you know, it creates an imbalance, and imbalances are what usually get people either advantages or lost positions. And in this case, I would say that this imbalance itself proved to actually favor Magnus Carlsen a little bit more, because apparently he's really good at using his knight and rook. Wow. World champion stuff, knows how to move the knight. So queen to d5, b4, a4, e3, bishop to e5, h4, h5. Just making sure you don't have like random back rank ideas, just getting a little bit more space, all of that stuff. Yeah, he does know how the knight moves after all. So king to h2, bishop to b2 is a very interesting move, because once again, if you take with the rook, there's queen takes, and then all of a sudden you're stuck protecting your a3 pawn. If knight takes, then obviously you lose your rook, so he's just going for the a3 pawn. Magnus plays rook to c5, attacking the queen, and also capturing, well, threatening to capture the pawn on b5, but doesn't do it just yet. I wonder why. What's wrong with rook takes b5? There's bishop to a3, and things just look a little bit sketchy. Yeah, I would assume so. Rook to d1, and then like queen to d7. Well, the engine says e5, but this is going to become a pass pawn, and that's going to be a bit of a worry. So he plays rook to d1 instead after bishop takes a3. Well, this is basically the same thing. So, I mean, I guess it was just a transposition to what I was talking about. There was also time pressure here. I see. So, yeah, I mean, Magnus's main idea is to... Why was this not a free pawn? What am I missing? It was? Magnus is indeed just built different, Orion. I agree with you. It was. They both blundered during time pressure. I think it was actually just a free pawn. I would assume there's a lot of time pressure going into like move 40 and stuff. So that's always like a big worry. But I mean, he wins the pawn anyways, does he though? I mean, after rook d2, you can't take the pawn anymore. After queen to b3, you still can't take that pawn, because if you do, isn't there like rook to b2? And then you can take this with the knight or something? Oh no, this bishop takes d2. Oh, I see. But there's rook d to b2. I mean, now you lose this pawn for sure, so I guess you don't really win a pawn anymore. But I do think that in this case, the pawn was actually free. Man, he's gonna really regret not taking that pawn, huh? Yeah, he's really just gonna regret not taking that pawn. I think that might actually have cost him the entire game. So, I mean, he gets the pawn, but at, like... Whoa. I was about to say, rook d to c2, where do, like, these pieces go? Because this queen has to always protect this, and this bishop doesn't really have anywhere to go. Yeah, I mean, if they were both under heavy time pressure, obviously, I'm not faulting them or anything like that. You know, stuff like that definitely happens. So... Oh well, knight takes e4, queen b3, rook to c2, bishop to f8, knight to c5, queen b5, knight d3, a3, knight to f4, queen a5, rook a2, bishop b4, rook d3, king to h6, rook to d1, queen a4, rook d to a1. I mean, at this point, it's just a bunch of moving pieces around, trying to capture this a pawn. For white, and for black, it's just to like keep everything more or less together. And this is the part where he actually decides, hey, let's give up the rook for the pawn and the bishop. So we'll be going to a rook and knight endgame versus a queen. And queen takes h4 is just a free pawn because this is pinned. So after king g1, queen e4, rook a4, bishop to e5, knight to e2, queen to c2, rook to a2, queen to b3, king to g2, queen to d5, f3, queen d1, f4, bishop c7, king f2. All right, I'm starting to see how that game sort of panned out. I think I started watching like way after all of this, so I assume at this point they've already been playing for hours and hours and hours and probably all like really tired and stuff. But I mean, the fact that they're still trying to play for a win, well, Magnus is still trying to play for a win, is absolutely insane. So rook to a8 to a8, queen b4, rook to c8, bishop a5, rook c1. I mean, you just have to like go for the weak pawns, which is what I'm going to assume he did eventually, right? Plays rook to e5, going for the f5 pawn. Yeah, they were just already like 5 hours in at that point. This is just absolutely insane. That's crazy. Rook e8, queen d5. You just have to like somehow get those pawns. I mean, I don't really know. Where does he make a mistake that actually lets him lose one? Oh, I see. Here's probably one of those moments. So after bishop a7, you can just take on f5. And then whoa, I see. So this is how we got to the position where I started watching. So he plays rook takes f7 in order to give up his rook for the pawn and the bishop, which enables him to have two pass pawns basically, and knight and rook versus a queen. And obviously this is not so much like okay, so it's not quote unquote a winning position, but it gives him very good chances to win, which is nice because it just means that, hey, it's still a draw, but it gives him chances to win if his opponent makes a mistake. So it's like, it's just a very practical thing to do. And I mean, this is the part where we started watching and it's just a draw, it's a draw, it's a draw, it's a draw, it's a draw. I remember watching this part of the game. Actually, I don't even know where I came in, but a lot of shuffling happened here until Magnus eventually pushed e4. And this is the part where things start to get a little bit more exciting in this endgame, because obviously if you have a passed pawn, right, what do you want to do in an endgame? You want to be the one pushing it because you want to be promoting your pawns and all of that stuff. So once he's ready to push his passed pawns, he's going to do something of this sort. And e4, queen h1, rook d7, king g8, rook d4, queen h2, king e3, h4, g takes h4, queen h3. Once you get rid of black's one singular pawn, there's almost zero risk at all in this position of losing. I've already explained earlier how even if you like lost the knight and pawn here, it's still a draw because you have a fortress. So Magnus is literally just free rolling this endgame for a win. So king d2, queen takes h4, rook to d3, king to f8, rook to f3, queen to d8, king to e3, queen to a5, king to f2, queen to a7, rook to e3, queen to d7, knight to g3, queen d2, king f3. And once Magnus is able to find a safe place for his king to hide, it starts getting extremely difficult for Nepo to even find a way to like hold the position, because you know, any checks, potential checks, right, just help white push the king, move the king closer to his own pawns, which in this case just means that he's not going to be at risk of getting checkmated because at risk of getting checked because he can always hide them, and these pawns are going to basically push all the way to the bottom. So thank you very much, Ulan, for the 5 gifted subs. I'm sure you're very happy today that Magnus Carlsen has indeed been able to win his game, which is pretty cool in itself. Thank you. If you guys got a gifted sub, make sure you're thanking him. Thank you so much, Blind. Appreciate the tier 1. Welcome back to your 16th month. Thank you. Indeed, way to go, Magnus. I mean, I was honestly, like, this whole time just thinking like, hey, how are we going to even possibly like get a win out of this event, right? But yeah, that was just crazy. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't already, make sure you're clicking the thumbs up button as well as subscribing to the channel. See you guys next time.